Well, hello, and good morning. Good morning. Apologies, running a little bit behind schedule on this Saturday morning on game day. Game day, game day, game day. It's the Montreal Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres tonight as the Canadiens look to do something they haven't done yet at all this season, and that's win four consecutive games. That's what's online for the Montreal Canadiens as we say good morning to everybody and welcome to another edition of the Shaun Starr Show. Happy to be with you live every Saturday at 9:30, with today not being really any different as we take a look at the overall NHL standings. There we have it. Detroit and Columbus, your 1 and 2 teams, holding on to the first and second wild cards, respectively. A little bit more distance now. Ottawa, the New York Rangers, the Boston Bruins, all 4 points back of Columbus and Detroit, both with 66 points. The Montreal Canadiens remain 5 points out of a playoff spot as we are now within 7 days of the NHL trade deadline. As we talk about the latest from our favorite NHL insiders, as we say good morning or the morning roll call, we are here taking attendance today. As always, good morning, Mr. Nils. We'll talk about Liam Ogren from the Minnesota Wild and the prospect pool, because the news came hard and fast on Friday with Montreal Canadiens centerman Kirby Dach out again for the entirety of another season. How did this news hit? How did this Canadiens news land with the team? Did it really change anything for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon and their timeline and their rebuilding timeline? I'll get into that in a second. We say good morning to Alex, the Rod Langway fan club this morning, live from Taipei. Good morning, Rod. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Good morning, Jesper. More snow in Montreal? You're damn right. You're damn right, brother. And I'm calling it, man. I'm waving the white flag on winter. The 2025 edition of winter in the Great White North, that is Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where I am broadcasting from today on the Shaun Starr Show. You got that right, baby. I'm calling it. I'm waving the white flag, bro. I am done with winter. More snow today. We're expected to get about another 8 to 10 centimeters, depending. Woke up to snow, going to go to bed to more snow, and say Levis, March 1st. And yeah, you're right, Eddie. I mean, at some points this week, we were talking about another major snowstorm. We've got a good hello, Marvin from Calgary, Alberta this morning. Good morning, Vinny. Good to see you. There's my main man. What up, Steph Howard? Always here on Saturday mornings with us. Good to see Steph. I saw Steph online. He has his Shaun Starr two-tone snapback hat. He got his delivered to him the very next day. He ordered on the Shaun Starr Show. Peter Puck, good to see Peter back here, a regular on the Shaun Starr Show. Leor, good morning. Hello, Shaun. Nice to see you, Leor. Salil, good morning. Very quiet leading up to the deadline. Could March 7th day be very interesting? We're going to have, of course, blanket coverage on this channel right here as we get to trade deadline day on Friday. I think we are going to do a live show. I think that's my plan. I want to do a live stream as the trades beginning to unfold. I want to react to that live. It's something, it's an idea I have. Let me know if you think that's something that you have time for today. Good morning, Mr. Rick Springhetti. Having a good coffee this morning in my brand new coffee mug. Way to go. You guys are just the best. Proud supporters of the Shaun Starr. So Rick Springhetti had this delivered to him the very next day after he had ordered. It's our 11-ounce microwavable, dishwasher safe Shaun Starr Show mug. As you see, a lot of channels, right? They got sponsors and they got all that branding, and sometimes you tune in, it's like an infomercial and everything else. I'm trying to avoid that. But as always, to keep the show running, it costs money and I'm out of pocket. So we're just trying to keep things going here. So thank you so much for all of your support. You can continue with your support on the ShaunStarShow.com. Ron is here this morning. Shaun, finally get to watch. I didn't know you had a show. Happy to see you. Ronnie, where you been, Playboy? Where you been, brother? I mean, we're here every Saturday at 9:30. You can expect me Saturdays and Sundays at 9:30. Ron, glad to see you. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you found us, the Shaun Starr Show on YouTube.com live. And so, yeah, we will get here. So let's dip into the waters here. I want to talk about Jake Evans before we get into Kirby Dach. And I'm really curious to get your perspective now. Kirby Dach's season is over. He had his right knee operated on. And yes, to answer your question, it is the same right knee that forced him out of the entirety of last year. So the same knee, another invasive surgery, and another premature ending to his season. But the silver lining, I suppose, for Kirby Dach fans and the player himself is he should be good to go next year. So the question I have for you, and I'd love for you to weigh in on the comments, what changes? What changes around the Montreal Canadiens what changes to the infrastructure, the timeline in the aftermath of Kirby Dach's injury. I have my perspective on what I think happens next now that Kirby Dach's season is over. I'm going to get into that in a second. But let's talk about Jake Evans because, quite frankly, my friends, I'm quite tired of talking about Jake Evans. I'm quite tired of talking about what happens next with Jake Evans. Where does Jake Evans go from here? What can the Montreal Canadiens get for Jake Evans? But here I am right now. Let's go, Jake Evans, because Pierre LeBrun dropped a little nugget live on RDS on game day when the Montreal Canadiens were dealing with the Carolina Hurricanes and shutting down Carolina and then getting by the San Jose Sharks on a beauty goal from Cole Caulfield in overtime on a Thursday night. And it's game day with the Canadiens playing at Buffalo. And don't think the Buffalo Sabres, even though they're dead last in the division, dead last in the conference, that this is a pushover team. No, we will get into the Buffalo Sabres and set up the Habs and Buffalo. But with the Kirby Dach situation being what it is, Pierre LeBrun told RDS that the Canadiens aren't going to just simply trade players because their contracts expire at the end of this season. And we know who the UFAs are, right? If you don't, let's just do a quick reminder for everybody so we're all on the same page here. David Savard, Yoel Armia, Christian Dvorak, and Jake Evans. And we can go down the list a little bit, but those are the main players, right? Those are the main players. And what's interesting here is Pierre LeBrun talked about and voluntarily included an organization named the Minnesota Wild and suggested that the Minnesota Wild is a potential team interested in acquiring certain players. Now, as we know, Minnesota is, as far as they're concerned, Minnesota is in the fight. The Wild have, even though they've lost 3 in a row and they've been playing 500 hockey for a second here, the Wild, still with that being said, are third place in the Central Division. They have 72 points. Right now, that's good for third place. You've got teams like Colorado, you've got teams like Vancouver, and then, Calgary and maybe even Utah a little bit there. But that's kind of the lay of the land. And the Minnesota Wild got dealt a serious injury when Joel Eriksson Ek went down, and he's out for an undetermined amount of time. So we talk about the center depth in Minnesota now being a concern. And so Minnesota being where they are in the competitive landscape, third in the Central Division in the West, I mean, what are we talking about here? And I'm going to get into teams like Minnesota. And there are many teams like Minnesota that I think the Montreal Canadiens can take advantage of. And what are the areas that Montreal can take advantage of, right? Because Montreal has a few things going for them. They have a boatload of picks. They have a lot of money. The salary cap is going up. Don't forget Jake Evans and Jake Allen's contract comes off the books. So does Jeff Petrie in the retention department. So that's over $4 million that will be added to the pile that the Montreal Canadiens can play with. So the Canadiens, relatively speaking, and in a certain area of the organization, draft picks, freed up money, salary cap, the Canadiens in that orb are an absolute wagon. They can push teams around. They can outbid teams. They can outmaneuver teams because, again, they have so many draft picks and they have so much money that they can play around. And we're going to take advantage. I think we've identified some teams that have, and I'm not criticizing teams like, let's say, the Islanders or the Bruins or even the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? Like, I look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, I want the Canadiens to be the next version of the Lightning, and Tampa Bay and the Islanders and Colorado and St. Louis and a bunch of these teams have identified their competitive window. And what did they do when they identified that competitive window is they started to make aggressive moves. They traded picks, they traded prospects. And so as an end result here, the Tampa Bay Lightning, well worth the gamble of trading away picks. And they've got Stanley Cups to show for that decision-making. The New York Islanders, not so sure what direction the New York Islanders are headed. So maybe there's an opportunity there, right? So that's the key word here, opportunity. And the Minnesota Wild, with the Joel Eriksson Ek injury, present to Montreal an opportunity here to get exactly what Ken Hughes wants. Because let's be quite clear. What I like about this organization, what I like a lot about this organization, they don't tell you stuff, but they kind of still tell you stuff. Right. So when guys like Pierre LeBrun and Darren Dreger, the vaunted TSN hockey insiders, are talking about, they're not just ready to make a deal for the sake of making a deal. understand there's some truth there. There's some truth there. And if the Montreal Canadiens, and I made this point on the channel this week, if the Montreal Canadiens are looking at Jake Evans and they've attached a certain must-get return in exchange for his services, the Canadiens don't need to move Jake Evans for a third round or a fourth round pick. I don't think that's ultimately going to be the best and final offer that Ken Hughes is going to be dealing with between now and Friday. I do believe that if Jake Evans can get a second round pick for his services, I think Ken Hughes pulls the trigger. And I'll tell you this, the question I asked you guys a couple of minutes ago is, what do you think changes inside the Canadiens organization in the aftermath of the Dach injury? And here's my answer. Nothing. I don't think anything really changes. I really don't. And I think I've been consistent here, right? The Montreal Canadiens a month ago, 5 weeks ago, were in a playoff position. Remember that? When they had a piece of the wild card, right? And then things kind of went sideways, and they've never kind of been back until the last 3 consecutive games where the Canadiens have been undefeated post Four Nations break. But if we go back to when the Canadiens had a share of the wild card lead, and I'm talking right about when they beat the on the Brendan Gallagher overtime winner, they beat the Rangers on Sunday, 5-4. They followed that up with a 3-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sam Montembeault, unbelievable game, right? The Canadiens at that point have 24 wins, and they have a share of the wild card. Do we remember what happened after that 3-2 win in late January over the Lightning? Yeah, go ahead. Finish your thought. Yep, you're right. 5 consecutive freaking losses. As a matter of fact, the Canadiens played 9 games after that Tampa Bay win. They won one of those 9 games, and they beat San Jose 4-3. And so that's why I'm comfortable telling you and sharing my opinion this morning that nothing changes. Nothing changes. The Canadiens are where they are when they had Jake Evans and Yoel Armia and Sam Montembeault. They are where they are when Kirby Dach was healthy. They are where they are when Patrick Laine was scoring. They are where they are when Juraj Slafkovsky was trying to find his groove again. And so I don't believe much has changed. Anything has changed. And so when we look at the Minnesota Wild with the Joel Eriksson Ek injury, the fact that the Minnesota Wild are third, the fact that the Wild are 5-5 in their last 10, and they've lost 3 in a row, and the cherry on top of that Sunday, what makes Minnesota such an attractive option is they are one of the worst teams shorthanded in hockey, end of sentence. And so the Minnesota Wild, I think, are an identified team that will be desperate to hold on to their playoff spot, show something to the team, show something to their fan base, get into the playoff tournament, and see what happens there. And so if I'm Bill Guerin, knowing where my team is at, knowing that the trade deadline is 6 days away, can you look at Jake Evans and can the Minnesota Wild give up a second-round pick? Without question, they can. Do they want to go heavier? Do they want to look at Yoel Armia and Jake Evans and bring in 2 hard-working, dirty, minute-eating players to help improve the 30th ranked PK unit in hockey? Without question. And without question, in my opinion, the Montreal Canadiens, my friends, in that situation, can get a first-round pick and therefore would have 3 first-round picks in June of 2025. And another thing, I don't believe if the Canadiens are able to execute and land a third pick in the first round, I do not believe they will be picking 3 times in the first round in June later this summer. So I'm curious to get your perspective on these points. What changes inside the Montreal Canadiens organization in the aftermath of Kirby Dach's injury? And in my opinion, not so much. And I think when we look at Kirby Dach's year and we understand, the timeline that he was on, the fact that he really hasn't been productive, hasn't shown really, I don't think he's shown the front office. I tried to make a case for Kirby Dach last week that maybe there's something there, small glimpses of something. But at the end of the day, Kirby Dach has played 57 games this season, has 10 goals and 22 points, and plays almost 16 minutes a night, And as devastating as it is for a guy who's 24 years old and is trying to establish himself, the Montreal Canadiens are not in the business of waiting. And I think when this team did what they did, when we go back and again, we look at the Canadiens' run all the way up until January 21st when they beat Tampa Bay and they went 1-8 down in the next 9 games that followed that and basically lost the plot, right? When people started to talk about them and people started to get excited about what might be for the Montreal Canadiens, things went a little bit sideways. And I'll say it again, things went sideways when they had those guys. And I understand, Emil Heineman threw the Canadiens out of balance when he got hit by a car on January 13th in Utah. But I can't sit here and seriously tell you Emil Heineman was the reason why the Canadiens disintegrated and lost any self-belief that they had built up from December 28th in the Jakub Dobeš game. But this, no doubt, lands a lot harder, a hell of a lot harder on the player than it does on the team. As Peter Puck points out here, is a minus 29 and had 10 goals in 57 games, 22 points. I can't put it better than when we talk about where the Canadiens are with all the healthy players that they had and the production that they weren't getting and all the minutes that were still being allotted. So, when I think about how this changes the Montreal Canadiens, I think they were, I want to believe that with Kirby Dach not passing the test before he got hurt, I have to believe that Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon were already thinking about, do we need to explore? Do we need to think about other options other than Kirby Dach, right? I have to believe that Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon were plotting. We're thinking about what next year was going to look like, okay? And I really don't. I don't believe, and feel free to disagree, I don't believe that seeing Kirby Dach go down for the end of the season, I do not believe it should change the trade deadline strategy for Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon. I really don't. And I really think what had happened after the Canadiens were guns blazing on December 28th, when they were winning all those games through a 17-game sample size, and they were 13-3-1, and everybody was talking about them. And then Emil Heineman got hurt. I see lots of people here talking about Caden Gouli's injury was the death blow to the Montreal Canadiens season. I think there's an element of truth to that, but I don't think for this team that one specific injury or one specific game, I think it's cumulative. I think that the Canadiens got a lot of heavy lifting from their bottom 6, and then that dried up. I think it put more pressure on the top 6, and then they were, hungry and trying to search for things, and that obviously took a toll. And look at the Nick Suzuki line. Look at them now, and look how they ended the season. He was dragging these guys around. They were full stop out of gas. And I agree. Yes, Caden Gouli's injury, without question, was devastating to the Canadiens. Plus, right? And that's why I don't think Kirby Dach's injury changes. It shouldn't change the strategy. And remember this, when the Montreal Canadiens a year ago, right, were talking and contemplating, David Savard. Do you want David Savard? Team ready to make another leap in a playoff round next year, right? They were looking for David Savard. Remember, the Canadiens put a price tag on David Savard and nobody met the price. David Savard is still a Canadian. So when we talk about the Canadiens, and I'll repeat myself, even though they don't tell us stuff, the front office still tells us stuff. And I think what they've told us is true, that they're not moving Armia Evans if the price tag isn't high enough. And I completely agree. I do completely agree. And if we're talking about the minimum return for a guy like Jake Evans as a second round pick, I don't think the Kirby Dach injury changes the plan. If somebody is going to trade for Kirby Dach and give up, for Jake Evans, my brain, I'm reading comments as they're coming in and I'm trying to formulate my sentences. My apologies. When we talk about the possibility of trading Jake Evans, and if the Minnesota Wild come knocking and say, I'll give you a second round pick, Jake Evans is gone. I believe that with every fiber of my being. And so that takes me to my next point I'd like to make today. Let me just, thank you. Let me get to my next point. And I'm fascinated to see how you guys are going to react to this. When we look at the Montreal Canadiens and how many picks they have, and knowing that Petrie's money, Allen's money is coming off the retention books, right? And if the Canadiens want, they can put Carey Price's contract on LTIR, and they would go from having about $14 million to about $25 million in cap space if they so desire, right? So Petrie, Jake Allen's numbers come off the books. The Canadiens are going to have a lot of money to spend. And they also have a lot of draft capital. And that's why I've been pretty consistent over the last couple of weeks talking about trade deadline strategy, and people that would comment about, oh no, the Canadiens don't need more picks, no more picks. Yes, they do. It's okay to get more picks. Why? Because let's talk about some teams. Let's talk about the New York Islanders. Let's talk about the New York Rangers. Let's talk about the Lightning, the Leafs, the Avalanche, the Blues, the Bruins. You know what all of those teams have in common? All of those teams identified a moment in their timeline where they thought to themselves, we're going to do something. Let's make a run. And all of those teams decided to travel down that path, and they move picks and they move prospects and they move young players in order to bring in. And for the Lightning and for the Bruins and for the Blues, it worked out. The New York Rangers on the outside looking in of a playoff spot today. And they spent capital in order to maximize on what they thought was their window of opportunity. And now here they are. And I think there is one team in particular that is ripe for the picking. Okay. And that team is the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders, who are in no man's land. I have no idea what the hell the Islanders are up to, right? And we look at where New York is. 59 points, 2 points back of the Canadiens again. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And granted, they're coming off a big win. But what are the New York Islanders doing? Their picks, they've lost some juice in their picks. They've traded away some of their players. And now there's an opportunity, because this is what I want for the Montreal Canadiens, because we've seen these reclamation projects, right? They've tried reclamation projects. And now I think the Montreal Canadiens are a lot better, more consistent. Players are delivering on their promise. Hello, Cole Caulfield. Hello, Nick Suzuki. Nick Suzuki on better than a point a game. Cole Caulfield on pace for 39 goals this season. Nick Suzuki on pace for 83 points this year. It's enough of the reclamation projects. It's enough. No more. It's time that this Montreal Canadiens team, in my opinion, has earned the right for their general manager to go out and make a trade, a real hockey trade, not a reclamation project, not on the promise and the belief that 2-3 years from now, this player is going to become that player. It's enough. It's enough. It's time for the Montreal Canadiens to go out and look at someone like Bo Horvat of the New York Islanders. And I know I've heard Marc-Antoine Godin talk about Bo Horvat for a while now. And I completely, the former writer at The Athletic, I totally see the angle of someone like Bo Horvat as someone that the Montreal Canadiens 100% need. 100% need. And I get it. He makes a lot of money. But who gives a bleep? The Canadiens have a lot of money. The Canadiens have prospects. The Canadiens have a boatload of picks to give to the New York Islanders in this trade. And in order to give up, you will get something in exchange. And the Montreal Canadiens, I believe, are dealing from a position of power. They can look at the New York Islanders, who have moved away from picks, that are where, again, what are the Islanders doing? Who are they? And on top of that, we can talk about, that Horvat wins 60% of his draws. He doesn't really play that much on a power play. He's proven himself in the NHL, and he plays about 20 minutes a night. This, to me, is the absolute perfect kind of player that I think the Canadiens now, whether it's him or someone like him, that's the point I'm making here, is there are teams in the NHL, and there are a few of them, that have looked at their window of opportunity and decided to make a strategic move in a specific direction. Some, it worked out. Others, it hasn't worked out. The Islanders are a case of it hasn't worked out. And now the Islanders need to decide, what the hell are we doing? And in the world of pro sports, where it's eat or get eaten, it's time for the Canes to start eating. It's time for the Canes to start picking on weaker teams and using their situational leverage to better their competitive window. And there are teams, Rangers, Bruins, Blues, Avs, Leafs, Islanders. There are teams out there, friends, that can make this happen. And I think the Canadiens have earned the right for their general manager to go out and make a real aggressive move, a real hockey move that makes them better immediately. Immediately. They've tried reclamation projects. Alex Newhook, whatever. Kirby Dach, it hasn't worked. I think we could talk about Kirby Dach as a failed experiment at this point. He's missed a lot of games, and when he does play, I don't know. Like, there are times where, yes, I tried to make the case. I see glimpses. I see it. But then it doesn't work. And then you watch Owen Beck slide in, and Owen Beck looks okay. I don't know if I don't think Owen Beck is the everyday center to play behind Nick Suzuki for the foreseeable future, but in the here and now, Kirby Dach's injury should not change the path that the Canadiens should be traveling on between now and Friday and the trade deadline. It should not. Because what is in the world in which Jake Evans gets traded, friends? What does the depth down the middle of the organization look like in the here and now? Right? Who are we looking at? Nick Suzuki, Owen Beck. What happens with Christian Dvorak? Does Alex Newhook move from the wing to the middle? These are all things that are on the table for Kent Hughes. But whether it's Bo Horvat, someone we have talked about, and I guess I could go on my page, see if I could find it here. Yeah, here it is right here. I did it 2 weeks ago. I'll see if I could put it up on the screen. I did it 2 weeks ago. We put it up on the screen. You can go have a look for yourself. Here we go. There it is, right here. This one right here. Right here. Big things happening around the Montreal Canadiens now. As you can see, we put some photos up there, and one of my thumbnails, Habs needs now. That's the video I did 2 weeks ago. We got 5,600 views, and Dylan Cousins of the Buffalo Sabres is the subject of that video that we had done at that point. Right there, Habs needs now. Because you look here, one of the other videos I had done was the trade party, the Florida Panthers kicking around, the LA Kings kicking around, and further to that timeline, again, the New York Islanders and the Buffalo Sabres. So as you could tell here, that I've been, for the last 2.5 to 3 weeks, have been looking at the Buffalo Sabres, the New York Islanders, the Florida Panthers, the Kings. I've been looking at these guys for a minute now, and I see like guys like Pierre and others. Cousins is a hard no right now. I mean, understand that, it's Buffalo, right? And Buffalo is a different beast. Is a different beast altogether. I like Bo Horvat more than I like Dylan Cousins today, if we're doing 1v1. But when we talk about where the Canadiens are, I like this comment from my boy Rick Springhetti. If I have to make a giant move, the player I'm aiming for is Noah Dobson. He fits in better age-wise, gives the Canadiens the potential to have a dominant top four soon, a must for a contending team. And again, I'll put this back up here. There's the let's make a deal, because we talk about all this week, 2 weeks ago. Go back on my page, youtube.com @Shaun Starr, and go on the video tab, and you'll see this stretch of video here. And it's 2 weeks ago. And we talk about Noah Dobson, and Rick brings up that point. I love Noah Dobson. I mean, everything Rick says here is on the money. And Noah Dobson, who is 24, plays all of these minutes, like 26 minutes, 24, 25 minutes a night, plays on the right side, puts up big points, plays big matchups without question. But it all, whether Rick's talking about Noah Dobson, whether Rod Langway fan club is talking about Robert Thomas, whether Enormtap is talking about Bor Horvat. Lots of names being brought up here in the chat today. Mr. Niles wants Noah Dobson as the number one guy that he wants, right? Everybody's got some sort of opinion. What's up, Frankie McCumber Jr.? Good to see you back here, Playboy. I don't know where his comment went, but whatever. There it is. There it is. All contending teams also have a number 2 center, says Frankie. So regardless of the name, what I'm pleased with is we all seem to be on the same page today. We all have different ways of saying the same thing, which I like. We're all seeing the fact that the Montreal Canadiens have leverage in a specific part of their organization. And we've also identified teams, whether it's Buffalo, whether it's the New York Islanders, as teams that the Canadiens can use their cap space, use their draft picks in order to extract talent from these markets. So I'm glad we're seeing all of these opportunities the same way. And that for me is in the aftermath of the Kirby Dach news that his season is more or less over. I have locked in on the fact that nothing should change based on the injury, because I go back to when the Canadiens were making national news in this country, winning 13 of 17 games, picking up more points over a 17-game window than any team in hockey, and everybody was paying attention to them. And then after they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, they went on to win just one of their last 9 games. And for me, I think as often as we've spoken about together how many players are being auditioned, like we spoke about it with Justin Barron, Jaden Struble. Obviously, Barron failed the audition. He gets shipped. Alex Carrier is brought in. I want to see another move similar to that. I like consistency, and I think the Canadiens are probably thinking along those years as well. That reclamation projects were a thing. They worked, and then they made a move to bring in Alex Carrier, a reliable, minute-eating, steady, no drama type player. And he was seamlessly integrated to the organization, and they haven't looked back. And when I look at the Kirby Dach news, is enough. There was plenty of room on the leash for Kirby Dach to run, plenty of opportunity to catch on as the number 2C, plenty of opportunity to find matchups that benefited Kirby Dach, and the Montreal Canadiens showing with their star players that they are ready to begin leveling up. They haven't turned the corner. That's not what I'm saying, but they are playing better habits, better star players. That leads me down the path of the experimentational period of the Canadiens rebuild is over. It is over. And this team deserves their general manager to go out. I'm not saying go out in the next 5-6 days and go and poach someone from the New York Islanders. I'm not making the case that the Canadiens should be buyers. I'm not saying they should be buyers between now and Friday's deadline. No, it's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is this team's core group, to me, has been identified. I am ready to lock it in. I am ready to move forward. And I am ready to see this general manager give his players someone that has proven themselves at the NHL level. To me, that is integral in the next move to find the next 2C of the Montreal Canadiens. That next player that plays behind Nick Suzuki has to have proven himself at the pro level. End of sentence. No room for debate, in my opinion. No room for debate. As Mikey Sears points out here, somebody had mentioned he's 30 or something. Bo Horvat is not 30. He's 6'1", the lefty center. He's 29. Excuse me, I'm still a bit under the weather. 6 more years at 8.5. That is the perfect player on the Montreal Canadiens with Ivan Demidov coming next year. I don't know if Patrick Laine is going to find more pace in his game and he's going to be still on the second line as late as next year. I don't know the answer to that question. But I do know that the amount of opportunities that Kirby Dach was given, where this team is at, they cannot afford to wait anymore. They can't afford to wait anymore. And I really don't think that if we're talking about the Canadiens trading Jake Evans between now and Friday, And maybe the Minnesota Wild are the perfect fit for him. As Pierre LeBrun had pointed out on RDS last week, I really don't think the Kirby Dach injury should change the strategy of the Montreal Canadiens. Steph Howard, thank you so much. Great supporters of the Shaun Starr Show. Good to see so many people online with us this morning as we got closer to the March 7th trade deadline. And so what do y'all think about this? I'm thinking about looking at doing a live show on Friday on NHL trade deadline day. I think ultimately that's going to be the plan. So you could expect some live coverage as we react to moves that are made as we get closer to March 7th. And I'm going to have Marco D'Amico on the channel this week talking about what else is up for the Canadiens. What is up for the Canadiens? Because here's the thing. And we'll talk about like where the Canadiens are in the wild card standings. Okay, so let me see if I can put this up on the screen for everybody to see. I want to talk about the standings in the wild card and get your perspective for a second on. Here we go. Here. Look at this. Let's look at the standings together, okay? So we can all have a good idea of precisely what we're looking at here, okay? Because this is, for me, it's interesting. So here are the Canadiens at 61 points. Here's Columbus at 66. 66 minus 61 is 5. Okay. So that's fine. So there's your 5 points. 5 points between Montreal and the second wildcard team. So now let's go down to the bottom of the overall standings. Here are the dregs of the NHL. San Jose, Chicago, Nashville, your bottom 3. Buffalo, Seattle make up your bottom 5. 54 points. 54 points is bottom 5 in hockey. Here are the Montreal Canadiens at 61. So for the first time in a minute, the Canadiens are closer to a playoff spot than they are to a bottom 5. Because during the Four Nations break, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but during the Four Nations, the Canadiens were closer to bottom 5 than they were to the wild card. So the Canadiens have a 10.2% chance of making the playoffs after they beat San Jose in overtime, setting up a game at Buffalo at 7 o'clock tonight. So it's 7 points between where Montreal is right here and where Seattle is right here. 7 points. But here's the rub. Here's the rub that I find fascinating. Let's go back to the wild card. Here's Montreal with 61. Look at this. 62 Boston, 62 Rangers, 62 Sens. What do these 3 teams all have in common? Ottawa, Rangers, Boston. We can go down even 2 because Detroit's got 66 points and they've won 7 of their last 10. But guess what? The New York Rangers lost Adam Fox. The Boston Bruins lost Lindholm. They lost McAvoy. Detroit lost Andrew Kopp. And the Montreal Canadiens, bada bing, are right there. So while we can talk about, the Canadiens in the 10% chance of making the playoffs, right? And I don't think, I'm not here sitting telling you I think the Canes make the playoffs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these players in this room believe in something, and that is something. We as fans, outside of observers, can play the logical game. We can play the, yeah, but no. But here's the funny thing about what I'm doing and what you're doing, sitting here on our keisters, talking and forming opinions on the Montreal Canadiens. These guys are in the fight. They're in the war day to day with their brothers. And when you put it and frame it that way, the Canadiens are closer finally to a playoff spot than they are to bottom 5 overall. And situationally, when you get into the weeds for a second, yes, the New York Rangers lost Adam Fox. The Boston Bruins are dealing with significant injuries. The Detroit Red Wings have a playoff spot today, but they also lost an integral member to their team. And the Canadiens know that. The league, their world in the NHL is a very small world. And they know the situation in New York. They know what's up in Boston. They know what's up with Detroit. They know what's up in their own backyard when they lost Kirby Dach for the season again. So it's what I'm saying is it's not so black and white. It's a delicate balancing act. But I will repeat myself for the umpteenth time today. I do not believe the Kirby Dach injury should change what the Canadiens have wanted to do. I believe, and I've said this quite often, the majority of this year for Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon was a way to look at who's here, who's pulling, and who's doing what. And I have chosen to have the opinion today. Montreal Canadiens have shown me enough that this core group, that Nick Suzuki is a number one center, Cole Caulfield is an elite goal scorer, and the Canadiens do have players on the come up, and we're all waiting for Ivan Demidov to show up, that the Canadiens have earned the right for their general manager to go out and make something huge happen. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Chris. Thank you for being a member of the Shaun Starr Show. Awesome stuff. $2.99 a month. Cancel anytime, and you get early access, members only access to the Shaun Starr Show for $2.99 a month. And again, you can cancel anytime. Thank you, Mr. Nails, Beck, Heineman, Roy, Kapanen, Davidson, make Newhook, Dach very, very expendable and tradable pieces. Evans for Ogren. Let's go, Mr. Nails. Thank you so much for the comment today. I appreciate it. All funds go directly to support and keep the Shaun Starr Show active, where we can have all these nice graphics, and I can dip into different screens and make this a fancy production on YouTube.com. Don't forget Marco D'Amico coming up on the channel this week, as we'll finally put the trade deadline stuff to bed here, and we will be live on this show on Friday, reacting to moves as they happen. So make sure you turn on your notification buttons to this Shaun Starr Show. That way you get notified as soon as we get something off the ground. So let's get going. Denis Boyer, let's get to some of your comments today. I think I've spoken enough, made my points. Let's see how you react to some of what I had to say today. Denis Boyer, Dobson will cost Cole Caulfield. Yeah, I can understand. And I am not in the business of giving up Cole Caulfield. Dylan Cousins has a point per game upside. It's a shame he's a righty in the same division. Fair point. And that's why, we talk about Bo Horvat on the left side. Everybody's a righty. Pierre, bon matin, Pierre Gingras. I want a guy who's good now, if at all possible. 1,000%. 100%. The timeline, that's why we talk and react this way all the time, right? Like, the timeline is a living organism. It changes and evolves all the time. And you have to be smart. You got to be able to react to the changes as they happen. And a few years ago, we could have talked about, the Canadiens being in the business of Kirby Dach. I think the Canadiens are out of the business of Kirby Dach. And by that I mean specifically reclamation projects. Yeah, fair point, Mr. Nails. I don't think you can get. Maybe you can get a fastball by Lou, but it's going to take something special. Salil, Demidov, he's a winger, plays off wing, so left hand center preferred. Listen, Ivan Demidov's not going to play center. He has said that he's played it, he's going to be a winger. I have a hard time here talking to you next year about Ivan Demidov playing on the wing. Let's see. I do not see a world where Lou lets Horvat go, but you never know. And that's the point I'm making, right? Is whether you're the Islanders or the Bruins or the Rangers, or Tampa Bay or Toronto, like, you have to now, specifically though, Pierre and everybody else, like the New York Islanders, who are you? Who are you hoping to be like one day? That's the problem with the Islanders. Like, they're not good. End of sentence. They're just not a good team. And they've traded away picks and they've tried to make moves, but I think the Islanders have, how do I put this? Tried to have their cake and eat it too. Like, it's one or the other. You got to pick a lane. And that's why I think the Islanders are like, ripe for the picking. If you hit the like button, I'll tell you who will be the second line center next year. You're a good boy. Rick Springhetti, I don't have anyone in mind, but I wonder if there's a Dylan Strome out there, a talented player who needs a different organization to shine. That would be a grand slam move. And that's that's the theme. That's the theme we're on today. Is the Canadiens are in an advantageous situation, and the advantageous situation the Canadiens are in is layered. Picks, money that is being added to the pile, the fact that the Canadiens could have as much as $25 million in maneuverability as early as this summer. So, you can, and this, I stress this. I stress this. If the Canadiens can identify a player that has proven himself, that is on the right side of 30, that you could see being here for 3 to 5 more years, and has proven himself. I keep stressing this. Prove yourself. The Canadiens can overpay, and I think I would be fine with it. So that's it. As we talk about, as Mr. Nils brings in here, when I tell you, I think the Islanders have to pick a lane, and whether that's got to be a rebuilding lane. And so the Canadiens, in their advantageous position, have money. They have prospects. They have picks. They have a combination of all of those things. So if the Islanders, who aren't going to make the playoffs, they're now below the Canadiens in the overall standings again. So the Islanders are done. The Canadiens are 10% chance of making the playoffs. So for argument's sake, they're done too. Let's get together. Let's make something happen, baby. Let's make something happen. Everyone hit that like button so Peter Puck can tell us who will be the number 2 center on the Montreal Canadiens next year. And that's the other thing too. Good point. Thank you, J-Fed. Thank you for that. We don't even know. It's like no slam dunk that Lou's going to be the man in charge of even making those decisions. That's a very, 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 very fair point. Peter Puck will tell us when the likes hit about 100. So that he posted that about 15 minutes ago. I'm not sure where we are today. I disagree. Jake Evans will be signed because of the Dach injury. Mr. Boomerang, perhaps you're just joining the show now. I don't think nothing changed. And I go back to when the Canadiens, were doing all that heavy lifting, and they had their full complement of players, save but one. And Kirby Dach played 57 games. He's got 10 goals. And he missed all of last year, and he's going to miss the rest of this year. So they are where they are when they had all those guys. They are when they are when Kirby Dach wasn't doing anything. So I don't think it changes, and I don't think it should change. Good morning, Keith. If Montreal trades Evans and Armia, they are taking a huge setback. You have one of the top penalty-killing duos in the league. You're not going to replace that bare shutdown guys at the end. Okay, fine. But again, before this week, before the Canadiens went to Ottawa and beat the Sens, and then they shut out Carolina, and then needed overtime to beat San Jose, the Canadiens had about a 4% chance of making the playoffs. With all of those guys on your team doing all of those things. Oh, shut down, penalty killing, blah, 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 blah. They were still closer to bottom 5 than they were to the playoffs. I don't get that. So the question to that comment from Keith is, in my head anyway, is do you think the Canadiens are ready to really significantly level up in the next 2 or 3 years? Significantly, make a real jump. And what are you going to do with all of these other players that you have? Right? What are you going to do with the Owen Becks of the world? What are you going to do with Jared Davidson? What are you going to do with Florian Jacki? What are you going to do with Joshua Roy? And I'm not saying all of those guys are bona fide, full flight, see in the NHL, hit the ground running. I understand that. What I'm saying is you have to give these guys an opportunity, whether it's an opportunity to play for Montreal or whether it's an opportunity to fatten the pot and trade them for someone like Bo Horvat. So it's just the timing is just not there. Not there. And I know Yoel Armia says he wants to stay. If he wants to stay, then make me an offer, Playboy. If you want to stay in Montreal, what does that look like? Are you ready? Are you really going to take less money to stay here? Not so sure. The status quo will produce the same results. It's not time to empty the cupboard. Suzuki is the new vet and a leader. Well, he's the captain. For sure, he's a leader. What you're saying sounds more like a summer trade. Yeah, I don't disagree. I said I had mentioned that previously. Like, I don't think that type of real significant major trade happens this week. Here we are together on March 1st today. I don't think that trade that I'm talking about happens this week, obviously, right? It's like when I talk about it being layered, it's the fact that the Canadiens, Jeff Petrie, Jake Allen's money comes off the books. That's like $4.5 million and more money. And then if they want to put Carey Price's contract on LTIR, we're talking about $25 million in summer money to spend on top of the picks and the prospects they have. And so 100%, Al, 100% it's a summer move. 100%. Horvat's 30 on April 5th. Great. I don't care. And I know he makes a lot of money, but, the salary cap is going up to $115 million in a few years. I promise you, the contract that maybe makes you a little uncomfortable today, you're not going to give a shit about in 4 years' time. I promise you, you're not. And in 4 years' time, maybe we're talking about the Canadiens having one of the best depth centers in hockey, like in 4 years' time from now. What's 4 years? 4 years a lot in professional sports. It's a lot. Perfect. So we'll see you Friday for a live show. I got enough positive reaction that I'm going to do it. So that's all it takes for me. So make sure you're here Friday. We're going to do a live stream on the Shaun Starr Show on youtube.com. And we are going to react to the trades as they happen. Hopefully, I don't turn into YouTube's James Duthie. And I'm sitting here not doing anything. Rick, good morning. It's a big if, but if Boston feels they need to retool, I would be all over Pavel Zacha. 27-year-old seems a perfect fit. That's a great take from Rick Springhetti. I saw Rick. I believe Rick was on with Grant McCagg on an episode of the Sick podcast, I believe, breaking down some scouting. Good to see Rick getting some shine. Rick's a very, very smart, observant hockey guy. Got to know Rick when I was covering the Montreal Juniors on the radio in the Verdun days a lifetime ago, and that's how I got to meet Rick. And he was doing some scouting, covering the kind of Quebec corridor. So whenever you see Rick Springhetti, proud member of the Shaun Starr Show, whenever you see kind of Rick in the chat, Rick's one of those guys you kind of want to pay attention to when he's dropping some stuff, because he's a little bit plugged in and knows of what he speaks. So nice, always good to see some good hockey IQ in the chat today. Salil, proud member of the Shaun Starr Show. Good to see you here, brother. Sean, I need a Crosby type of veteran center for Ivan Demidov. Horvat is perfect. Man, oh man, Crosby would be perfect. Crosby would be perfect. Mr. Nils. Horvat, Dobson for Laine, Newhook, and Mayu. Oh, my Lord. That's a lot. And I'll be honest with you, man. Volonkin, Konyuchikov, I don't even know. Listen, brother, this is an honest show. I don't think that's going to get it done, man. I really don't think that's going to get it done. Steph Howard, with new Habs management, I will never fall in love with third and fourth line players anymore. Bring me talent. Goodbye, Evans and Armia. Listen, these are good players. I like Yoel Armia. I do. But not to the point where I'm ready to lock. I want to see this team lock these guys in for 4 or 5 years moving forward here. I believe so. We're at this is. Can I get a Pat McAfee clap? Thank you. It's unbelievable. We're at 256 right now. I believe my previous record was 194, 195 on a Saturday live stream show. So we're at Rick's at 263. That was a couple of minutes ago. So we're at 254. So thank you. I guess my thank you. I just lost 5 guys. So no, this is great. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased with what's going on. You're welcome, Rick. Happy to put some shine on you. And it's funny too. I know it's going to sound You could choose to believe me or not. I hope I've built up enough clout that you don't think I'm going to lie to you and I'm going to say what I'm going to say next. But I was actually thinking, Rick, of having you on the podcast to help me break down Denoyer and some of the other guys in the queue. And then I saw that you're on the Sick podcast with Grant McCagg. I'm like, shit, I waited too long for my idea. And I'm so insecure. I think if I get you on my podcast, I put you on the Shaun Starr show, the guys at the Sick podcast will think I'm just following what they're doing, which is never the case. 4 Fs. According to Pierre Maguire, Jonathan Toews would be a great fit as a third and fourth line guy. You could probably get him for $3 or $4 million for a 1-year contract. And there's a French connection, right? And there's a French, I believe Jonathan Toews parle français un petit peu. Listen, I would pass on Jonathan Toews. I would pass on Jonathan Toews. I don't want projects anymore. I am out of the project business. I just don't want projects anymore. The Montreal Canadiens, in my opinion, showed you that with more talent, proven talent, they are ready to make a jump. And I'm not going to be specific about the jump. I'm not saying the jump is going to go from where they are to top 3 in the Atlantic Division. I'm not saying that. But they can be more consistent. And if they can get more talent that is proven and that can deliver, I think the Canadiens will level up. And listen, I love Pierre Maguire's point of view. Pierre Maguire has forgotten more about hockey than I'll ever dream of knowing about the game. So when Pierre speaks, he comes from obviously an exceptionally credible place. But in this instance, in my eyes, in my amateur brain, I don't like the Jonathan Toews. It's a project. It's another maybe. It's another maybe. Like, there's no guarantees. Like, I'm happy that Jonathan Toews has found more peace, and I think he's getting healthier. And maybe he does want to come back to the NHL, but not with the Canadiens. Like, I love the captain. I love the leadership. I love that he's a winner at every level, but he's a project. He's a project for me. So I'm out. Peter Puck believes Florian Jacki and Alex Tuck will replace Armia and Evans. Yeah, maybe you're right. And maybe Owen Beck will also be a part of that. Vinny Red, thank you so much. You're also coming up on 5,000 subs. Won't be long. Keep it up. You are correct. I have been paying attention to that. Where am I now? 495. Maybe I can find it here a little bit faster. I'm at 4959, 4,959. I was telling Madvi at home this morning, you know what I want to do is what I wanted to do was when I get to Shaun, you have great opinions. Most of the time they make sense. Thank you. Ron, please let me know. Let me know, brother. Let me know when I don't make sense. Please let me know when I don't make sense. But let me get back to this. It won't be long when we get to 5,000 subs. I am going to give away a driver. That's my plan. So you see here, those are 2 there. I don't know. I got more in behind this bag here are 2 more golf bags. And in those golf bags are more clubs. And so what I'm going to do is when I get to 5,000, because how does this work? I don't know how this works. How does this work? Should I start promoting it now when I reach 5,000? But I don't want to. I want you guys to win. Like all you guys here. I see you guys every week. There's Morgan. There's Rick. Hey Tommy, my boy Rod from Taipei. Vinny, what up? Peter Puck, my boy here. Frankie McCumber Jr. Love this kid. Love this guy. I see these guys. Angie. Volokakis. Tikanis, re? FFF. I've seen you before. Sheldon. This is silly. I don't believe I've seen Sheldon here. But yeah, I don't know. Eddie, I've seen before. Pierre, I believe, is kind of new. John, I've seen before. Enorm Tap. Sheldon. Sheldon, I don't think I've seen Sheldon. Oh, that's the guy that said silly stuff, I think. Anyways, Mr. Niels, I've seen before. So I've seen a lot of these comments You guys are very, very loyal, and I'd love for you to, I'd love for you guys to win. But yeah, I see here like Leor, I've seen a bunch, right? So Leor says, why not give away a hat or a mug? Like I could give you, I could definitely give you a hat. I could definitely give you a mug. I have two styles of hats. Here's the other one. I can definitely do this for sure. But like these hats, okay, so I'll tell. So this hat here, okay, that I'm selling on my website, and I'll put it up on the screen now. Okay, I'm gonna, maybe at the sake of me being too transparent, whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna be as honest as I can with you here. Okay, so you see this hat here, both of these hats here. I bought them for $18. I bought them for $18. My price is what I bought them for. Okay. And if you go on the website, you see I'm selling them for $41. Okay. And I know I felt guilty putting them up for $41. Okay. But I bought them for 18. It cost me, and I've gone through Canada Post. I've gone through a bunch. It cost me through Canada Post. It cost me $16 to ship it to you in Montreal. Cost me six, like Rick Springhetti, Steph Howard, a bunch of guys bought hats and mugs off the website, right? It cost me $16, 3 days traveling to get the mugs and hats to you. So 16 plus the 18 that I bought, what does that leave me with? I felt so bad putting those hats up for $41, right? But just understand, it cost me 18 to buy it, and it cost me 16 to ship it, for a total of $34. I make $7 a hat. End of sentence. End of sentence. And the coffee mugs are no different. The coffee mugs, it's an 11-ounce wide mug, dishwasher safe, extra wide handle for big Shrek hands like me. Okay. And that coffee mug cost me $9. Now, this is the first time I've ever kind of ventured into the merchandising space before. I tried to negotiate. I tried to get a better deal. But as you see here, I put the mugs up for $29. Because again, it cost me freaking $16 to ship this mamma jamma to you. So like, yeah, nobody's getting rich at all. This is not I mean, trying to make a few bucks, but everything I put into it, from whether it's selling a hat or selling a mug or selling a membership on my channel for $3 a month, everything, all of that money goes into this channel, right? So I could put comments up that I can transition from this screen to this screen, kind of like, just, you can tell from, how this channel started in December, the lighting, the sound, the visuals, it was all shit. It was all like a project, a work in progress. And I think now it's a lot more consistent. It's a lot more deliverable on a much better scale, that I got a lot of monthlies, whether it's StreamYard to do this, whether it's Buzzsprout to upload my audio, whether it's CapCut so I can make nice, good thumbnails. All of these things are monthlies, right? So I'm like, yes, I have a job. I love my career. I love what I do, but I also don't want to be driven into the poorhouse because I do a show on youtube.com. So that's all. So that's it. I just wanted to be fully transparent with everybody. Yes, I do. I didn't feel the best. I don't want people to think that I'm trying to, I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Like, it's just enough that we could keep it going. That's all. That's all it is. Like, yeah, we're not taking trips to Fiji. I'm not joining Royal Montreal. I don't drape myself in Louis Vuitton velvet from head to toe because I sell Shaun Starr merchandise. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Let me know when you're sharing. Ace, send me an email. Send me an email. I will send you what 9 irons I have. You send me an email. I'll send you what 9 irons I have. And we'll see if we can make something happen. Thank you, Anthony. You can order yours at the Shaun Starr Show.com. Sheldon, love the show. I am new and enjoying the show. I thought you were new. I'm pretty good at knowing who I see every week. Enjoying the show. I would prefer a hat. I hate golf. So yeah, so I could do giveaways. I'll eat the cost of the hat to give it away. I don't mind. I can lose $18. What's up, Michael Lemieux? Hi, Sean. Mike from Portland, Maine. What's up? Good morning, Sunny Patel. Love the transparency. Thank you. Time to call your fans. Carpool Nation. What up? Eve LeMay. Eve wants to play some golf together. Eve, I am definitely down to play some golf together. Now, that would be fun. That would be fun if we could do some sort of Shaun Starr Show golf tournament. That's going to take some planning. That's going to, because the people I partnered with to do the Shaun Starr Classic screwed me over in a major, major way. And so I don't obviously affiliate myself with those people anymore. And so, yeah, getting something to go. But I have been talking to a Quebec production company. And if you like YouTube golf, some of your favorite YouTube golfers, whether it's Foreplay or Grant Horvath or Good or anything like that, or Bob Does Sports is another huge one. Uh, I believe we are going to go on the golf course with a production team, and I think we're going to do some 9-hole challenges together. Damn, I was waiting for a trip to Fiji. Yeah, no doubt. You should start with the Louis. Dude, I would love to have a Louis Vuitton sweatsuit. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. So, yeah, thank you, everybody. And you could continue to support the Shaun Starr Show. And thank you, Vinny and Mr. Niles. Welcome, Chris, as a new member to the Shaun Starr Show. Merci beaucoup, my good friend Steph Howard. And yeah, that would be good. Like if I had a restaurant sponsor, like let's say Casual Spore, something like that, we could do a live kind of get together at a Casual Spore. But listen, I'm all for it. You guys come up. You guys, if you have ideas, feel free to throw them my way. I am all about just making this as good as I possibly can. So like Rick, I've got to say goodbye. Make sure you keep it locked. Turn your notifications on. Oh, excuse me. Make sure you turn your notifications on this week. Lots coming up with Marco D'Amico as we get going. So don't forget, you can support the channel and keep us going with your support. It means everything at theshaunstarrshow.com. And you can get some same-day delivery if you order before 2 o'clock weekdays, if you're in the Montreal area. If not, don't forget, we ship worldwide, and we've got free shipping as well. I put the shipping into the price of the goods, right? So thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a great Saturday, a record-setting Saturday. We got like 200 and something, like 63 people, I think, at peak. So thank you so much for all your support. Make sure to check back in with me tomorrow. A live version of the Shaun Starr Show every Saturday, every Sunday at 9:30. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:30. Enjoy the game tonight.